Hi everyone, welcome to week 9 on the Dean's Family Wellbeing Journey. Today I am with Tracy and Mick. I'll just pass you over to Tracy and we'll discuss further with what's happening in week 9.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Nadine. Lovely to see you and really lovely to welcome Mick. We talked last week about ACEs and their impact, and I promised that we would bring in a guest speaker today to share their ACEs story so that we can learn more about how we break that cycle. So welcome, Mick.
Hi, thank you.
I'm really glad you could join us today. Mick's obviously familiar with the corner, aren't you? You've joined us there a few times.
Been there many times.
Yeah, lovely, and really experienced in supporting families, but also got your own ACEs story, which we're looking forward to hearing a bit about.
Okay.
But do you want to first, before we do that, Nadine, do you want to give us a quick update on how your week's been, how your journey's going?
Yeah, no, so it's been really good actually. I mean, it's been a little bit difficult because the pandemic again, so I'm in the vulnerability category, so I can't go out, but I stick to my bubble. I'm not binge watching TV, but it has crept up a little bit more because I've not been able to go out. However, I did go out for a drive and went to the Royal Harbour on my own just for a little stroll. So I've been trying to get a bit of exercise in, so give myself a little bit of self-compassion, self-care, and a bit of me time, because teaching Zach at home isn't something I mean, I give all respect to teachers. I don't know how they do it. One day, I mean, and he's really good and really patient. It's me. I just lose my rag, and I have to understand that he's 6. You know, he needs help, not me going, well, why don't you know this? You know, so I'm just kind of like, lots of breathing techniques yesterday we had. But we made it fun. I ended up, I think the first half hour was a bit, and then it kind of went to, right, let's make this more fun. Let's get the playfulness in with doing it, and we smashed it. So I was really pleased.
Brilliant. That is brilliant. And it's holding on to that original goal of keeping your relationship with Zach. You know, if he learns, then that's brilliant, and whatever he achieves is brilliant. But the main goal is keeping the connection, isn't it? But I'm so chuffed that you've been doing the self-compassion and that you've got out and had a change of scenery and all those bits, because that's so important, isn't it, for well-being? We just feel better when we've done those bits.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
So that is brilliant. And just to update you, Mick, like Nadine's been on this journey, or we've been on this journey together about 9-10 weeks now, haven't we? And it's just been really looking at the impact of ACEs and how we can combat some of those with different wellbeing strategies. So that's what we've been doing, and it's been working really well, hasn't it?
No, definitely. I mean, it's really made me passionate to help other people out there with their journeys as well, because I find that since starting this journey, I've put so much into place that I find that as a parent, I've changed as well, bringing up Zach, and he seems happier as well, and I seem less tempered. I don't seem to flip my lid. I just feel like a whole new person. I'm not saying it's gonna change overnight. I now and then have my days where I get a little bit angry, but then I know to go back to week 1 where Tracy and I first started doing ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and then just gone back to the beginning and gone, right, okay, I need to have a look at my breathing techniques. I need to have a look at why I've been triggered and what I can do to change the outcome of this, and it's working really well so far.
Yes, it's been really brilliant, hasn't it, to sort of go on that journey together. And obviously we haven't finished yet, we're excited, and the other thing we're excited about is hoping to connect up with more local families in the coming weeks, isn't it, when we can start doing some online get-togethers and things, and hopefully at some point not too far away, some, you know, COVID permitting, actual face-to-face get-togethers, which will be great. So Nadine's really a great example of how positive you can, you know, be in changing that cycle of ACEs. But we'd love to hear your story, Mick, because obviously you've been on that journey longer. So can I hand over to you?
Are you saying I'm old? I am clearly much older than yourself and Nadine.
I'm going to say you're more mature.
That's more like it, experienced perhaps.
Oh no, I totally just meant that you've been on the journey in the sense of your ACEs journey, not your actual age. Yeah.
Of course, I'm only teasing. Well, it's kind of a long story. I guess everyone's is a long story. So what I'll do is I'll start at the end, if you like. I'll start now. So now, today, I'm happily married, have a lovely blended family. My son, who's now 21, is a police officer, and I'm incredibly proud of that. I still wonder how my son got to be a police officer, but that is another part of the long story. And I have a stepdaughter, Jess, who's 18, and my wife and I have our own daughter, the blender, she likes to call herself in our blended family. Josie, she's coming up 11. And, you know, we're a fairly kind of normal family, bits of ups and downs, but on a good day, it's lovely and excellent. And yeah, we're happy together. So yeah, just to go back in time to, yeah, I was born into very difficult circumstances. I put it that way. So there was the household into which I was born. There was various kinds of abuse, and it was, although I can't remember because I was very ill at the time, I believe that it had some sort of an effect. So it was, you know, the circumstances would have had their impact on my very new and hoping to develop brain and body. And there was something about the circumstances that inhibited that, rather, that I was only going to realize later in my life. It kind of progressed, and my mum and dad, who stayed together, you know, all the time. My mum passed away last year with dementia, but my dad and my mum stuck it out despite the difficulties that they both had very treacherous childhoods. It was no wonder mine was so difficult. Yet when I was about 2, they had found their own place. And my brother was born, and he was kind of wanted. My parents were married by then, and they had a house, and things were different. So although we had the same parents and grew up in the same house, we actually had very different kind of backgrounds, if that makes sense. So I'd inherited a lot of stuff, and it made me feel very isolated in my own family and home, strangely enough. So the way that played out was that yeah, I would act outrageously or aggressively. When the time came, I got into drink and drugs in quite a big way, and but I had lots of outlets because my mum and dad were, you know, were decent and hardworking and law-abiding, and it began to bring things round in some ways. So we had the odd holiday, or we would go out for days, or we would have nice Christmases. Yeah. And I played lots of football and loved the countryside and being outdoors, and loved music and learned to play the guitar and all of that kind of stuff. So I had lots and lots of outlets. Yeah. However, when my son was born, and I wasn't in a proper relationship with his mum, it sort of threw us a bit, because I had this lovely little boy. He was my son, and you know, I'd always wanted kids, and I was kind of good with kids, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I suppose that's why I do the work that I've been doing. But I was supposed to just kind of pay his mum a few £100 a month and clear off, take him to McDonald's every other week, and that was about it. But I didn't really see being a dad like that, so I would spend more and more time with him, and yeah, and in the end, I actually had to. Well, I took him. He came to live with me. So his mum gave him a choice. Yeah, his mum gave me a choice. Either she'd have him back, he'd been with me for the weekend, and I wouldn't see him again, or he'd have to stay with me. And that's that's really difficult.
Yeah.
Well, a really difficult situation, but an easy decision because yeah, he stays with me.
Yeah.
So there I was. I'd given up my business, and you know, I was a lone parent, and I was living in a dingy flat on the estate, and yeah, things were pretty rough. But at least I had my son with me, so we carried on like that for a bit, and then when he was about 7 and our Jess was 3, her mum and me met, and well, kind of happy ever after, if you know what I mean. So you know, that's how it's been latterly, and I've got into the work of supporting parents. I used to take my son, so we're talking 20 years ago, to this group. It was called Mums and Tots.
Yeah.
So it was like 40 little kids, their mums, and me, you know, the only dad there. And some people were really nice. Some people were a bit sort of discriminatory or whatever, but it just gave me this taste for being a parent and giving something back and making things better for the next generation. Because through my mum and dad, who, as I said, brought me into a really difficult early set of circumstances. I won't share that with you, but they really did their best at considerable costs to their own mental health and well-being, and happiness, really. But they tried to break that cycle. So if we put it on a scale of ACEs, ACEs are good. They're a helpful indicator, but they're only really part of the story. But just for this purpose, if we say that my mum had 10 ACEs,
Wow.
and I had 5, then our youngest, Josie, has none.
Yeah.
And what I mean to say by that is not I'm a really great parent. I am a great parent, actually. Parenting is an absolute joy. And no, I'm kidding, because it is tough some days. Of course it is, and there are ups and downs. But what I'm saying is I have that certain knowledge that however difficult things were and are, they can get better. And it helps to have those outlets. For me, it was music and football and whatever it was. But also I had friends around me, and I had people like my Auntie Alma and Mrs. Linford, this little twinkly-eyed, tiny little old lady who lived just around the corner, and we knocked on her door once, up to no good. And instead of telling us to clear off, she invited us in and gave us homemade lemonade and told us stories, and it started, you know, one of the most rewarding friendships I've ever had. So there were these older people, these adults, that would be available for me and would look out for me, and gave me some sense of my own being that wasn't defined by those early circumstances and the way that I might have been treated in my early years. The end.
That is brilliant, honestly, isn't it, Nadine? That's
Yes,
such
thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, really encouraging. And like you say, it's not a case of, oh, that was that and now it's happily ever after. It is a journey, isn't it? And some days are tougher than others, but it's just this idea of generally moving in the right direction, of breaking that cycle of ACEs, and actually, you know, every day there'll still be little challenges, but we get more confident in our certainty that actually things can change, and they do change, and things do get better, like Nadine's seen on her journey, and likewise for myself, you know, having seen that making little changes can actually build up to making a big difference. And I love the bit, like you were saying, what's at the heart of it is actually seeing our children flourish and do really well, and that's the important bit, isn't it? You know, that's what all of us want for our children, is that their experiences, you know, are more positive, and they have that really strong emotional connection to us that we know is so important for brain development and for them to thrive in all the other areas. So really lovely to hear your story. Thank you, Mick, for sharing and encouraging us.
It's a pleasure, kind of. No, it is. It's lovely to be with you both this morning, and thanks ever so much for asking me. Yeah, it's just coming out with all of that stuff.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean, but yeah,
it
feels worth it.
Yeah, thank you, and we really appreciate it, and we know it's difficult, and we always say that on this journey, don't we, Nadine? Like, actually sometimes it's really hard to think about some of these things and some of our experiences, and actually that's where we talk such a lot about self-compassion and being kind to yourself, and we always, you know, there's always this disclaimer: don't think about your ACE score or your ACE story. If you're having a bad day, just focus on the well-being. You know, actually that's the important bit, is that's a snapshot of this is what's happened, but actually we're looking at where we're headed and where our children are headed, and we're focusing on that self-compassion and that self-care and those well-being strategies and those little ways we can strengthen our connections with our children, which is, you know, key, really. So thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure, thank you.
And thanks, Nadine. We'll catch up next week.
Yes, no, thank you. Thanks again, Mick. And we will, I'll see you next week.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.